Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala barakatuh. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Alhamdulillah, we are still discussing on chapter 4 of our book, Positive Islamic Psychology, a Transcendent Model to Achieve Peace, Happiness and Success in the 21st Century. And the subtopic today is on opportunity, potential and success in life. So there are a lot of psychological concepts, especially in positive Islamic psychology, especially in terms of loss of learning and conditioning, in which if we learn, we can then develop first the potential for success, secondly we can create the opportunity for success, and then we can have the success in life, both in this dunya and the akhirat. This is very important. So I'll dwell on this subject of opportunity, potential and success in life over a few videos, because it's a very long topic, this subject, in terms of how we condition ourselves using the laws of learning through positive Islamic psychology to develop success in life. Inshallah, you can add on your own ideas, and then you can understand from how these writings of Professor Muhammad Mahdi Jenkins, John Jenkins, he is trying to bring about this wonderful holistic human behavior towards achieving our full potential, the full flowering of our human existence in this world, and the full flowering of our potential both in the spiritual, emotional, mental and physical level, inshallah. Alright, so I read the few paragraphs first. Apparently there are three factors that determine the expression of any characteristic. That means the characteristic to have opportunity, potential and success in life are determined by three characteristics. So you understand this by these three characteristics. Apparently there are three factors that determine the expression of any characteristic. The first, that characteristic must exist as a potential. So everything that we do must exist as a potential. Everything in life, in the future, exists as a potential. What is the past is experience. What is the future is a potential. What's in the now is what we are doing, either moving upward or downward. That means progressing towards our full potential or regressing towards self-destruction. Alright? So these three conditions must exist. Second, the opportunity to express that characteristic must arise. So you must have the opportunity to express that characteristic. So later on we'll give an example of the tennis player. So it can be it can be a scholar, it can be a poet, it can be a physicist, whatever it is. And the third, the conditioning of that characteristic is determined by the laws of learning. Alright, so these three characteristics must exist. So you must understand this as a fundamental laws of shaping success in life. Remember, I repeat again. First, that characteristic must exist as a potential. Two, opportunity to express that characteristics can arise. Three, conditioning of that characteristic is determined by the laws of learning. Remember these three basic ideas from the perspective of positive Islamic psychology for you to express your success in whatever field or endeavor that you do. Well, if we want to give an example of experience affecting the expression of some potentials at a human level, the sport of tennis provides a good example. So Professor Mahdi brings this idea of a tennis player, and we're going to dwell on this quite long, but it's just one example. So it's easy because it's generic. Every person without debilitating physical or mental handicap has within themselves the potential to perform all the behaviors which constitute playing tennis. So any normal human being who are not handicapped can do that. Alright, so that is the potential. Alright, so to play tennis, you must be a human being. Secondly, you are not handicapped, you're not blind, or you're not, for example, having physical impediment and so on. So you have the potential, just like any world-class tennis player. So you first is the potential. Only those who have met the environmental conditions such as a tennis court, tennis racket and tennis ball will ever have the opportunity to express their potential. So out of the 7 billion human beings on this earth, how many really play tennis? Maybe about, say, 200 million regular tennis players in the world. So we have less than 5% or 3% of the human population that plays tennis. So those who doesn't play tennis will never know what is tennis if they never heard or never saw what is tennis like. and they will never know the game. So even though they have potential to become a world-class potential tennis player, because the opportunity does not arise for them to play the tennis because they don't have a tennis court, they don't have a tennis racket, they don't have a tennis ball. Okay, you understand that? Only those who are met with the environmental conditions such as a tennis court, tennis racket and tennis balls will ever have the opportunity to express their potential. Those who are rewarded for their tennis playing behavior will tend to play more tennis, and those who are not rewarded by the experience will tend to play little or no tennis. So even you have the opportunity, not many people will have this joy, this happiness of playing the game of tennis. So out of the 200 million people in the world, maybe those who are die-hard enthusiasts playing tennis, maybe about, say, 10% of it, 20 million human beings playing tennis almost 2 times or 3 times or 4 times a week. All right, so this is an example. The statistics, I think, is subject to the Tennis Association of the World to decide. But so there are this condition, they met the condition, but they, out of the 200 million, maybe they know they have played tennis when they are young, maybe for a couple of times, and they have some pain here and there, or they feel that it is not a game for them. They rather play soccer, or they may rather play badminton or squash or whatever other games that they want to play. So in the end, even though they have this opportunity, they have the court, they have the tennis racket, they have the ball, but after playing for a while, they just don't like it. So that is where they dropped out from the game of tennis. All right. Out of all the people who express their potential to play tennis, only one at any moment becomes the best player in the world. So there's only one best player in the world. All right. Even though all the best players in the world, they're almost close. All right. Maybe the 100 best players in the world, they almost can fight each other, and sometimes you win, sometimes I win. Or maybe the top 10 or the top 5. All right. So that you can see this in tennis. So the current world champion, maybe they may have won the championship over 5 times or 6 times, which is very rare, but they are extremely good tennis players. That person would have had hundreds or perhaps thousands of times as much experience playing tennis as the average tennis player. So they are professional tennis players. You are just an amateur player. You play only once a week. But this professional player play 2 times a day, and they play every day for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, honing their skill in terms of tennis. That person will also have received many more times as much reward for their tennis playing behavior than an average person. So how does they become a world champion? They win this championship at a junior high, school, secondary school, college, and so on. So every time they are rewarded, they get medals, they get funding, they get scholarship. So those are the rewards. All right. So early on in their life, they get rewarded. And even their parents shape the shaping process of tennis players all over the world. You can see the grooming and the conditioning set by their parents. Sometimes very excessive, sometimes very aggressive. Sometimes a lot of them fail along the way and they have mental breakdowns because the aggressiveness of their parents in terms of trying to mold them to become a world champion. But not everybody can be world champions. But even you put hundreds or thousands of hours of practice. The person who has undergone the most successful conditioning becomes the best player in the world. So the best player has been going through the series of conditioning and conditioning and conditioning through the laws of learning. Remember, these are all psychological laws that makes him or her possible to become a world champion. If the world's best tennis player had not had the opportunity to play tennis, or the tennis player had not been sufficiently rewarded, that person would not have played tennis or would not be able to play tennis well. All right? So this is where I think we can understand of the 3 aspects in which we must have the potential, we must have the opportunity, and then the practice, the conditioning through the laws of learning to achieve a certain level of success in their endeavor. So we have this tennis player. If we take another example, say our children, we want to give them the best in terms of education. So how do we do that? It's exactly the same thing. They have potential. If they are not handicapped in terms, they may not be mentally having some physiological or psychological problems in which we have to first treat and try bring them. If they are normal children, what are our expression to help them exercise first their potential. So they could be geniuses, but if you don't expose them to the ability to become geniuses, they will never be geniuses. For example, they may be very good at engineering. So you must expose them to this idea of engineering. So very early in life, you can see what are their desire or their needs or what they feel best doing. All right? So you can then groom them slowly. My own son, very early in life, I realized that he likes to take things and put things apart. All right? Instead of he take out some clocks or some material and putting apart, I bought him Lego sets, and he'll play hours and hours and hours and master the whole play of Lego to the extent that he can build many things. And initially I got to spend a lot of money buying all kind of funny parts, the pneumatics, the trigger, the electronics, the electrics and so on for him as he grows, because he becomes very good. So in the end, what does he do? In the end, he graduated in engineering, alhamdulillah, as his baseline, and very good in electronics and robotics. He brought his university team to the international competition and so on. All right? But this is where you give the opportunity for them to express their human potential to the best that they can if they want to be an engineer. The same thing if we take somebody who wants to be an ulama, a teacher of, for example, of Sharia or Al-Quran, or there are many areas in which you must allow them to express that potential in a way that is fulfilling, in a way that is joyful. Most important is when, for example, when my son, when he was young, when he played, it was so joyful for him. He can go on for hours and hours playing that. He just stop, eat, and then play again. Stop, eat, play again. You know, but naturally he has to go to school, does all his homework, and I bring him out for outdoor activities. I bring him out camping, I bring him out swimming, so that you give them a balance. All right, so they become good in whatever they endeavor to do, and inshallah express a potential and then become successful in their vocation. But from the Islamic perspective, not only that you become successful in your vocation, you must be successful in your life from the perspective of our existence, the spiritual existence, because we are a spiritual being living in a temporary physical world. So we must know what is our destination as the sincere servant and slave of Allah. All right, we must strive to make ourselves good, help others to be good, and make the world good, and in that process have the joy and happiness and fulfillment and success in this world and the hereafter, inshallah.